It's time for Wise Money with Korhorn Financial Group with certified financial planners Kevin Korhorn, Mike Bernard, and Josh Gregory.
Welcome to another episode of the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group, where every week we're helping you take your next wise step in your financial life. Thanks for being here, friends. My name is Mike Bernard. I'm your host. I'm also one of the certified financial planners on the program. And with me in the KFG studios, my business partners and fellow CFPs, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory.
Most people have heard that Roth IRAs can be a powerful tool, but many don't realize that the timing of a Roth conversion is just as important as the strategy itself. If done right, a Roth conversion can save you thousands of dollars in taxes and help you build long-term tax-free retirement income. So today, we're going to be breaking down the top 5 times when it makes sense to do a Roth conversion so that you know when and if it's right for you. That and much more on today's episode of the Wise Money Show.
I really love the fall. I really do. In October especially, it's like the first half is the middle of summer, and then the second half is the middle of winter. But somewhere in between, it's fall. But it's Roth conversion season. We're doing a ton of them and helping a lot of clients with it. We're going to help you know when the time is right, whether it's the fall or whatever season in your finances. If you have a question for the program, we'd love to hear from you. You can call or text us, 574-222-2000. That's 574-222-2000. Online, wisemoneyshow.com is where you can find us, engage with us that way. And then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Search The Wise Money Show. When you're contributing to your retirement account, you've got this quintessential financial planning choice. And the kind of the big idea, guys, is you need to harness that choice, not just, brush it aside and, I guess I'll do Roth. I guess I'll do pre-tax. Make an intentional decision for your financial situation. In addition to that, though, throughout the year and throughout your career, you've got to decide, is it also time to transition some of that pre-tax money over to Roth? These are big financial planning questions.
They are, and I'm glad that you pointed out as one that is quintessential, and it should be repeated, because a lot of people, they'll make a really informed and intentional decision up front, and then they just go on autopilot forever after that, and don't stop to recognize that sometimes from year to year, your situation can change, new opportunities can be created, and the decision to do traditional IRA instead of Roth IRA can be reversed.
Yeah.
With a Roth conversion.
So there's 6 areas to your financial life, to everyone's financial life, and a Roth conversion, it touches all of them. Your present financial position, because it's after tax or it's going to be taxable, so it's going to create some cash flow changes. Also moves the needle on your balance sheet. When you're looking at your balance sheet, you want to see, how much of my wealth is growing tax-free? And so present financial position. Protection planning is going to influence certainly whether you're self-insured or not for life insurances and so on, but also it's going to impact what you pay for your health insurance, even if it's way out there in the future for your Medicare. Obviously, this is a tax decision. Mm-hmm. Is it the right time from a tax standpoint to make this move? We'll talk about that here in a minute. Investment decision. Your Roth IRA typically should be invested a little bit differently than the rest of your accounts. We can talk through that. Yes, it's a retirement decision. How much of your wealth, as you're drawing dollars out, as you're building wealth, but then drawing them out in retirement, how much of your wealth do you need to give to Uncle Sam? And that's the erosion of purchasing power versus, nope, the dollars that you withdraw, they're all yours. You don't have to give a slice to that silent partner of yours. And then from an estate planning standpoint, these dollars, they're going to be subject to the 10-year rule if you leave them to someone that's not your spouse. And over 10 years, what tax are they going to pay? Well, if it's pre-tax, they could pay a higher tax bracket than you paid. But Roth, they're going to withdraw those dollars and inherit them tax-free. So it touches all 6 areas of your financial life. Kevin, let's just break down what a Roth conversion is, but let's start even like maybe more grassroots than that. There's 2 ways to get money into a Roth.
Right, and they both start with C. So the first way is to contribute. And so if you have ordinary income, you can put $7,000 into a Roth. If you're 50 or older, you can put $8,000 into a Roth.
And I want to be just a touch specific, Roth IRA, right? Because there's also the Roth 401k, right? That has 401k limits.
Right. And so we've gotten lots of questions over the years. Hey, am I too old to do a Roth? Nope. As long as you have earned income, you can fund a Roth. And so you say, all right, well, what about I'm already doing a 401k, so therefore nope. you have a coupon that allows you to contribute to a tax-favored retirement plan through work, but you also have a coupon that you can fund a Roth or a traditional IRA.
Yep.
Whether you put the money into a traditional IRA, typically a pre-tax move, or a Roth IRA, the coupon is the same, so you can't double up. You can't say, okay, I can put 7 in a traditional and 7 in a Roth. Nope, it's a total of 7 for the year, 8 if you're 50 plus, and to a Roth IRA. That's your contribution.
And I think the thing to emphasize there, if I can interrupt for a second, is that this is new money that hasn't been in a retirement account before.
Yes.
Maybe it's been invested in some mutual fund somewhere. It could have been sitting in the bank. Maybe you just earned it in your latest paycheck or a bonus or something. The point is that it's new contributions, new dollars going into those retirement accounts.
And it's subject to income limits as well.
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you're working with your certified financial planner to make sure that you're getting this right. So the first way to get money in is a contribution. The other way to get money into your Roth IRA is through a conversion. So a conversion is I'm taking money from what we'll call it a traditional IRA. Typically, that's all pre-tax money. So I'm taking that money from my traditional IRA, converting it to my Roth IRA. When I do that, the money that I've never paid taxes on that's coming out of the traditional IRA goes into the Roth IRA. But also there's going to be a 1099 that says, hey, you owe taxes on the amount that you converted.
That's right. And there is you don't have to have earned income to do that.
Nope.
So you can do that in retirement. You can do that whenever. And there's no limit on how much you can do. There used to be both. There used to be an income limit, and so you can convert all or whatever. So common questions, and guys, we're about to share the 5 times that you need to consider doing a Roth conversion. And before we get into any of that, it's an individualized decision. Your financial life is unique to you. That's why you've got to work, and we're going to preach it every time we're on the air. You got to work with your CFP who knows your financial situation as well, if not better than you. However, we get a lot of questions about Roth conversions, and some of the quick, frequently asked questions. Is it taxable? Yes. Kevin made that clear. It's a taxable move. If you have after-tax dollars via a backdoor Roth or something like that in your traditional IRA, then maybe it's not. But it's typically taxable. Do you have to convert all of your IRA? No, you can convert the whole thing. You can convert half. You can convert $1,000. It doesn't matter. You can do part. And then because it's taxable, can you withhold taxes? That answer is yes. But there's a different question. Should you withhold taxes? And if you're a fan of the Wise Money Show on YouTube, you know we create a lot of content answering that very question. I cannot stand withholding taxes on a Roth conversion. I cannot stand it. If it's your last option, then do it. If a Roth conversion makes sense for you and your only option is to withhold taxes, okay, fine. But find other creative ways to pay the tax so that you don't need to withhold taxes. Guys, any other frequently asked questions related to Roth conversions?
No, but this is it's simple in concept, but it's complex in execution. So this is where you really want to make sure that you're measuring twice and cutting once to get it right.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into the 5 times that, or share 5 times that you need to consider doing a Roth conversion. Doesn't mean you absolutely have to do it. You've got to look at your specific financial situation. But the first one, the first time, you've got to consider doing a Roth conversion is when you're in a tax valley, when you're in a low tax year. Josh, start breaking that down for us.
Well, the whole point here is, as Kevin was describing earlier, when you do a Roth conversion, you're creating income and you're going to pay tax at whatever bracket you're in at that time. And so if you have this artificial, strange year where your income is lower than normal and you may find yourself in a lower tax bracket or lower in your normal tax bracket, you just have more room to play. It creates an opportunity for you to get money out of that IRA into the Roth and pay less taxes potentially. Mm-hmm. And so, these years that, if you're lower than normal, whatever normal is for you, lower than average, if you're just in one of the lowest 2 tax brackets, period, this is often a time for you to really seriously consider the Roth conversion.
And we'll share some of those types of occurrences. Sometimes they can be emotionally or even financially. It's hard. Let's just say it's hard to think strategically during those times. We're going to point a few out to you, and so that you can take advantage of this first one. But we've got that, and then the other 4 times you need to consider doing a Roth conversion. We've got that and more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Hello, YouTube. Thanks for being here. This is the Wise Money Show. What you're watching right now is our weekly 1-hour talk show that airs right here on this channel, 10 a.m. Eastern Time every Saturday morning. Also on podcasts at the same time, but also on a couple local radio stations at the same time as well, which is why the content is broken up the way that it is. We've got segments, and we're on a commercial break right now. If you like long form and discussion type content, then this is the show for you. If you want something more direct and maybe 8 minutes long or something more specific, taking one financial concept, applying it directly to your financial life, we've got that on this channel as well. Next Wise Step videos, where I actually talk about, just recently did a video about how much I can't stand withholding taxes on a Roth conversion, how that defeats the purpose, and I gave some creative ideas as well. So make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and if you like the content, we appreciate it. All right, guys, bonus content time, rapid fire. Let me get into it. First one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be short.
Mm-hmm.
Biggest financial mistake you see people make in their 20s. What you got, Kevin?
Not getting into the retirement plan.
Trying to grow their lifestyle too quickly, like quickly buy that super awesome car or get into a house that resembles their parents, or just trying to overreach too quickly is one that I often see.
Mm-hmm.
You?
Yeah.
Oh gosh, both of those, I would have a hard time awarding a winner if this was like
it's a competition.
Well, no, it's not. But both of those are.
Let's make it a competition.
I'm going to lose because both of those are fantastic. Yeah, I would probably say taking on too much debt, which is sort of a manifestation of what you shared, Josh. But that could be, being lackadaisical with student loans, or buying too big of a vehicle, jumping into too much house, thinking it's okay to have debt. People talk about all the time. I'm sure it's not that big a deal. So getting too much debt.
Yeah.
So.
I think Kevin's probably has a bigger number attached to it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really recover from losing out on the early years of contributions.
Well, no question. I mean, think about it. Of all the dollars, think about your own portfolio, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the dollars sitting in there,
Yeah.
which are the ones that work the hardest for you?
The ones that have been there the longest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Well,
followed by the ones that you invested during the worst times.
Yeah, I was going
Right.
to say the ones you
Right.
bought lowest.
But I mean, that's an easy answer. I mean, think of all the people on the team at Korhorn Financial Group. Which one works the hardest?
The one who was here first?
Okay, so
oldest?
but I think but Mike, this is the thing.
Kevin, that's your dad, right? Because this is your dad's company?
Yeah.
It does.
My dad started it. No, that's not true. But listen, here's the thing. When you meet with the folks that are in their 50s and they got $1 million+ in their 401k, it tells you a couple things. It tells you likely they started early, and likely they didn't panic along the way and try to move from one to the other. And so you just, and again, it's profiling. You don't know for sure. No one ever knows the full story until you sit down and talk to the client. But I love seeing, hey, there's a new prospective client. Here, they're in their 50s. They got $1 million, $1.5 million in the 401k. I know what happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone at work got to them and said, hey, you got to get into this thing. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll get into it. And they just kind of did the set it and forget it.
And then put their head down and went to work.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Kevin wins, by the way.
Yeah.
You owe him $20. You want to pay now?
Actually, but you know what? I would
change.
have a competing answer with that, because the other answer I would give is create and live off a budget.
Not so the lack thereof would be a mistake.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Right. That's the discipline that serves you for the rest of your life.
And that's the discipline that confirms to you, hey, you've got room to get money into that 401k.
Mm-hmm.
But
and it prevents you from doing that overspend and overreach. So
Yeah.
Right.
I win.
right.
You owe me $20.
All right. Let's get into it. We'll keep going with number one, then get into the second time as well. So here we go. What are the times when you need to be considering doing a Roth conversion? You've got to know if this is the right move for you, and then if so, how much? How do you handle the taxes? It's a big financial planning decision. We're helping with that right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Stay up to date on all Wise Money content. Find us online. WiseMoneyShow.com is where you can find us. And then all over social media, wherever you're at, we are there as well. Search the Wise Money Show. Talking about the 5 times, not that you have to do a Roth conversion, although the 5th one, I'm going to say you have to do it. But you need to consider it. You really need to consider it working with your CFP. And the first time is when you're in a tax valley. And a tax valley, I use those terms, that term intentionally, because it's meant to be normally we're in a higher tax bracket, but this year we're actually paying less tax. And while sometimes emotionally, like this year we're paying less tax, I mean, this year our income's down. So emotionally, you might not be able to think strategically. And that's why you need a coach in your life, because this could be a time where, I got laid off. Mm-hmm. Or there wasn't enough work for us in the fall. And so in the month of November, our hours were cut, that sort of thing. It could also be, hey, we're typically a 2-income household, just had that bambino. One of us is staying home for 3 months and so income is down. Mm-hmm. Or going back to work part-time after having a baby. Yep. So could be early in your career, just getting started. I was in school for 5 months.
Yeah, you're at the base of the mountain, not just in a valley temporarily.
Could be at the end of your career,
right?
Where I'm retiring in June. So I've had a half a year of income, something like that.
Or you go to more of a part-time retirement. You're kind of transitioning into retirement. That's an example. Could be one where maybe you were just recently married. You were a single income. You were filing a single tax return, and now all of a sudden you get to be in a joint tax return. You literally get to have twice as much income before you jump into a higher tax bracket that way.
Yeah.
So it could create just an anomaly, a temporary dip in your tax picture. And this is a way to take advantage of that, Roth conversions.
So, go ahead.
I think about the business owner out there, and I think, okay, so the business has slowed down. And so, if I'm a S-Corp, that all of the profit lands on my tax return personally. And so if the business slows down, or, this year you can build a factory and deduct 100% of it.
Crazy.
And so you say, hey, I've got this big deduction. What should I do to offset it? And then when you think about big deductions, what are the other big deductions that you might use to offset? Well, I could do a big charitable deduction, or I could have a big health deduction. Hopefully, that's not positive. Yeah. But if you're listening to this and you say none of these apply to me, who do you know that is going through one of these situations where you say, hey, if you have any pre-tax money in your IRA, make sure you're getting some of it over to your Roth.
That's right. Yeah. You could be a hero. You could be a hero right now, because that's a big deal.
Yeah. Well, I was just going to point out that, in many ways, this does apply to every single person listening today, because at some point along the way, you're going to have some sort of a change in your tax picture. You may have one of these years where you're lower income than normal. And a lot of people just take that year as like I get a break from paying as many taxes. The business owner who's taking that massive deduction that you were describing, Kevin, is that just going to result in, oh, good, I get a year of reprieve, I just don't have to pay as much? Or are you going to say, no, this is a window of time, it's an opportunity for me to consider a Roth conversion as well? So the whole question here is, do you need to pre-decide before you come to one of these dips in, or what'd you say, a valley?
A tax valley.
I like it. Before you get to the tax valley, are you going to pre-decide, I'm going to use the tax valley as an opportunity to better my situation, not just enjoy a little bit less tax that one year?
Yeah, that's right. All right, and the flip side to that coin is opportunity number 2. A second time to consider doing a Roth conversion is when you expect taxes to increase in the future. And you might say, oh, you guys are just stretching this out. No. There's different circumstances, but yes, it's the opposite side of the same coin. If you expect taxes to increase in the future, and that could just be tax rates, expect tax rates to increase in the future, then paying taxes now so you don't have to pay them in the future obviously would pass the smell test. That would make a lot of sense. That could mean I think tax rates are going up in the future. My personal opinion, guys, that is an enormously unpopular route to go. I think that is politicians, especially as toxic as it is right now. I don't know who gets elected with austerity. Maybe out there in the future it's going to be needed, but to raise tax rates, I think, is going to be hard to do. What instead has been the pattern, we will create new taxes. We will create new taxes by adding a surcharge to your Medicare, by giving a deduction, but if you earn too much, you won't get it. They will create new taxes, I think. And this isn't a new idea. If you take a look, just Google it right now. How many taxes existed in 1950 in the United States? And then how many taxes exist right now? And it's significant. It's a long list. We continue to make this thing more complicated. Therefore, if you think new taxes could be created in the future, that's a way of saying, well, taxes could be going up in the future, therefore doing Roth conversions now. Yep. There's several other examples. Josh, you want to hit a few?
Well, the sad one that my mind often goes to, because it's so urgent and it's so unnatural to be thinking about a Roth conversion when this happens. But if you lose a spouse at some point during the year, or some sort of diagnosis comes along and you realize, wow, there's a good chance that we're not going to enjoy this long retirement together that we once thought we had, the one that we had prepared for and planned for and looked forward to and everything. Maybe there's a diagnosis that calls that into question. Yeah. If that's the case, then just recognize, if one of you passes away before the other, which is how it works, right? Usually one spouse goes, there's some sort of gap between when you pass away and your spouse passes away. If that occurs during that interim period when they are now filing a single tax return instead of a joint tax return, they're going to find themselves in a higher bracket. So their income doesn't necessarily have to go up, but their tax bill proportionately could increase. And so if that's the case, taking advantage of your joint tax return as long as you have it becomes really critical. And again, when we have time to plan because someone's fighting a long battle and their health journey is a struggle for a while, you've got warning. You can do these types of Roth conversions maybe over the course of a few years and set up that surviving spouse to be in a stronger spot. It's the sudden unexpected loss that creates maybe a very narrow window of time where if you just lost your spouse, you have until the end of this calendar year to still file effectively a joint tax return. You're filing as a surviving spouse in that case, yep. And it could be your last joint tax return. So your last opportunity to consider this Roth conversion idea before it gets more expensive for you. And I guarantee you, it's not going to be on your mind. That's why you need to be working with a certified financial planner, so that when life is just completely rocking your boat and you don't know which direction's up or down, you have someone who's coaching you on the decisions that could really help you, that you will be grateful for down the road, but right now you can't give it a whole lot of thought and attention.
Yeah, that to me is the ultimate planning opportunity, because you say, if we've got two lives today, what would the tax bill be if we only had one life? But the kind of the inverse of that, I'm probably saying this wrong, but when you put yourself in a position where the tax rates are going to go up because of what you spent a lifetime building. So I'm working with a client right now, and he's built a business. Well, he's selling the business, and he's doing it over 5 years. So he's getting a payment and then payments over 5 years. But he also has some land. He's selling that on a land contract. Yeah. But he's also going to be working for the person that he's selling his business to. So he's going to have that income, and his wife's going to work for him. So all of a sudden, he's pushed himself up so high, And if there's any way to anticipate that and say, hey, I keep pushing this rock up the hill, but at some point in time, it's going to pay off in spades, then I would say, then invite those taxes today, because you're going to put yourself in a position where IRMA's an issue.
Yep. All right, so that's two. This in the tax valley, or if you expect your tax rates to be higher in the future, this next time to consider a Roth conversion does apply to all of us. That more coming up on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Good stuff. I was reading your body language to see.
Dude, I was totally out of touch with the clock, but
I was too.
But that
ready to pounce.
I am dealing with that situation right now, and this client is saying, where is the shelter? Where is the relief? And I'm, you know how sometimes it used to seem like teachers got joy from giving you homework, and it made me really resent the teachers. I'm like, I don't even want to be the messenger.
Yeah, right.
I don't want him to think in any way, shape, or form I get any joy from the pain, the tax pain he's going to suffer. But really, there are just a few things, and we're doing those, but that's it.
Yeah,
and that's barely a Band-Aid.
All right, break number 2, bonus segment. Really, just short. What's one underrated tax strategy most people don't use and they need to consider?
Filling up your HSA bucket before your taxes get filed.
Yeah, I love it.
Good one. This one's small, but and maybe it doesn't apply to as many people. It will start to again now, but taking advantage of here in Indiana, if you contribute to your alma mater or a college or university, and you can get essentially 50 cents on the dollar coming back to you in the form of tax credits and stuff. There's a lot of those little tax credits out there that people just don't bother with. And I don't know. I mean, if you left a few $100s on the table every single year because you just didn't want to bother with it, that starts to add up. And, you wonder, well, how many people might be more supportive of whether it's a school or a charity or some organization if they just understood the impact that they could have and so on. So
I would say QCD, the Qualified Charitable Distribution. And part of that is because it's confusing, but the other part is by that time, because you're not eligible until 70 and a half, by that time, like you've got well-established patterns. And to shift your patterns to have those dollars coming out of investments, I don't know where you guys stand right now, but I am just at the point of, well, do I do a donor-advised fund or not? Like in our own personal situation. And even that just feels a little funny. You know what I mean? Like having it, instead of coming out of income, coming out of an investment bucket. And so, but certainly by the time you're 70 and a half, that idea is going to feel strange.
Right.
And so, but the impact is enormous.
Yep.
Qualified charitable distribution. We talk about it all the time. So
that alone makes, well, we're going to get into it here.
Yeah. That's a big deal. And so, but I think the winner, if you're charitably inclined and you care about education, contributing to an SGO, because the 50% tax credit you were talking about, Josh, you can get that plus.
Right.
So that's a huge deal.
Yep. All right, here we go. Third segment. Anything left to mention on tax rates could go up, or just move on to the next one? Move on to the next one. Here we go.
Yeah, move on. Yeah.
All right. When the stock market gives you lemons, what do? You make lemonade. And we're going to share a way to do that applies to all of us right now. This is Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name is Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Korhorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of the Wise Money Show is on podcast. Wherever you listen, just search the Wise Money Show. Where you listen, rate the program there as well. Subscribe to it. That is helpful feedback to us. We've got lots of content out there on podcast, so hope you go out and enjoy it. All right, we're talking about the 5 times that you've got to consider doing a Roth conversion. This is not a substitute for individualized financial planning, because even just knowing, well, is the time right? Is it time to do a Roth conversion? That's just one of the many decisions that you need to make if you're going to do it. Then how much? How are we going to pay the tax? How should we invest these dollars? Lots from, if you're married, from whose IRA do you do it? From his or hers sort of thing. And so lots of decisions you got to work with your CFP, but we're at least pointing out the times when you need to consider it. All right. Third one, I've said, this applies to everyone. Third time to consider doing a Roth conversion is when there's a stock market pullback, which, hey, this is great news. Happens all the stinking time.
Yeah.
But why? Why, Josh, why would we say this is in the top 3 times when you've got to consider a Roth conversion?
Because I think it creates an opportunity for you to get somewhat of a slingshot effect happening within your portfolio, and it's happening tax-free. I actually have this conversation with clients all the time, especially when they get into retirement, because I feel like part of our role as a financial advisor is to help them manage their own emotions with their investments,
Yes.
especially when they're done with the paycheck program and now they are dependent on Social Security and their investments to carry them. And it can feel very vulnerable, especially the first time that you see a dip in your investments. And so I've just gotten into the habit over the years of often quantifying for people, hey, the next time your portfolio has a significant dip, and I'm always talking about the next time because we know it's coming, right? It's constantly there. When your portfolio drops 10% next time, that's a bigger number today than it has ever been before, because, early in retirement, you're now managing more money than you've ever seen. And I actually quantify that for them. And I say, on this $1.5 million portfolio, that's a $150,000 drop. And that's going to have all of our attention. That's going to have us stirred up and frustrated, because we don't like to see things go down in value. We want it to only be climbing. But I also, part of the reason to just get them thinking about the inevitability of a drop is, okay, let's get over the emotions. Let's pre-plan how we're going to respond. And one of the responses often is, maybe it's a time for us to consider a Roth conversion. You don't do that type of proactive planning or have that kind of response if you're all twisted up inside emotionally because you just had that $150,000 drop. But when the market is down and you do your conversion, you're selling out of some investments in your IRA, you're moving the money over to the Roth IRA, and you buy back the same investments or something similar. And that way, when the market rebounds, and that is I can say that with as much confidence as I know that it's going to decline, right? When the market rebounds, you are now rebounding, and all the growth from that day moving forward is going to be tax-free for you. That is so powerful. To take a dip in the market, put yourself in a stronger position, and now be rewarded with tax-free growth on the other side. It makes me want to cheer for the next decline in the market.
Yeah.
Not really.
Yeah, I did Roth conversion personally in 2022. Like the market was just grinding lower and lower, and a lot of people, we were addressing questions. It feels like I'm just throwing money away. I'm contributing to my 401k, and then I look at my statement and I've lost more than I contributed. This is a terrible idea. And keeping those emotions in check. And you would then say, no, how do I turn these lemons into lemonade? And having when the stock market's down, when your investments are down, what does that mean logically? It means shares are at a lower price. So you can buy more shares with the same $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever. You can buy more shares, and when that price rebounds, inevitably, we don't know when, whether that's in 3 months, 6 months, or 3 years, it would be tax-free. That growth would be tax-free. So,
Yeah.
Yep.
I have nothing to add.
All right. Nothing further to add. Thank you, Charlie Munger. All right. Time number 4. The fourth time when you've got to consider a Roth conversion is early in retirement, before your required minimum distribution starts. And this is sort of flavored with the second one, which is, I think tax rates could go up, or I think I might be in a higher tax bracket out there in the future. Well, if you are retiring before 73, soon to be 75, then you're not forced yet to withdraw from a required. You're not forced yet to withdraw from your pre-tax IRAs, a required minimum distribution, but you inevitably will. So should you start doing some Roth conversions before that event happens?
Man, I think it's wise, especially if you have any kind of hint or indication that there could be some inherited dollars coming as well, because it's not just your own required minimum distributions that you need to have on your radar. If you're getting into your 60s or 70s, how old are your parents? Are they still alive? And do they have assets that they have in tax shelters that are going to come to you at some point? When they do, you're going to be required to be drawing off of those accounts, maybe at the exact same time that now you're reaching your own required minimum distributions. And so you end up double dipping on a lot of taxable dollars, and you can swing a tax return pretty quickly there. And you might be locked into that program for a 10-year period of time even. And so to be thinking well down the road and saying, hey, is there anything I could be doing proactively right now to try to diffuse my own tax time bomb here in case I inherit some dollars that also need to be dealt with? That's just wise planning. You know, it requires some multi-year tax projection work or a sophisticated retirement projection, but that's what your certified financial planner should be helping you build every single year.
Yeah, that is some 3D chess right there. Mm-hmm. I mean, because when you think about your own financial life, you do need to think, if I'm in my 60s, what is above me generationally and what is below me generationally? If I've got a pool of pre-tax money that's never had any taxes paid on it, what's the best tax return for that to land on? Mm-hmm. But you're right, Josh. If you're going along and then you inherited $1 million, you're gonna have to take out an extra $100,000 a year. Well, what that does to all of the calculations for what do you pay, what tax do you pay on your Social Security, what tax do you pay on your Medicare Part B premium, all of these things. And so this is where you really, 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 and I had the pleasure of talking to one of our listeners, a power listener, and when we were going around the 6 areas of financial planning, and we did present financial position and protection planning, and then we went to tax planning, and I said, and he was waiting for it. Mm-hmm. I said, who helps you with your tax planning? And he said, no one. We get our taxes prepared, just like you always say on the radio. Yeah. And that is it. And so if you're listening right now and that's your situation, and you have someone who sells you investments, and they tell you, hey, for tax advice, go find a tax person, consult your tax advisor, but your tax advisor is not giving you any advice, you need to work with a planner, make sure they're certified, and then it's a little bit confusing because not all certified financial planners actually do financial planning. So I could go through and get the credential and not be a practitioner. Yeah. So you gotta work with someone who does financial planning.
You know, I'm thinking back on a joint case that I got to do with Amy Masters, one of our certified financial planners, and she, with our software that we run retirement projections with, we're able to forecast out what are your required minimum distributions going to be when you get out there to age 73, and not only that, what tax bracket are you likely to be in? You know, we can have kind of a snapshot or a picture of where we think your income is going to be in all those future years. And if you realize that as you look out there on the horizon, as you were saying earlier, Kevin, because of what you've built, because of the sacrifice and the planning that you have done, you're going to find yourself in this certain tax bracket. Well, if you know today and for the next 3 or 4 years, you could be in a much lower tax bracket, it gives you some wisdom and some clarity to say, oh, maybe now's my window of time to be doing some Roth conversions at lower brackets than I know I'm going to be paying in the future.
I completely agree. All right, we got more coming up here on the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Sorry, I took you right down to the wire there.
That's okay. And I don't think it's because of these bonus questions, but it does feel like we already finished the show. So I know we had an extra long what is it? Preamble. Okay, here we go. Last bonus content, keeping it really tight. If interest rates stay high for the next 5 years, who benefits, who loses? You know, the original interest rates went straight up. Everyone said, oh, they're going to go straight down. They haven't. If they stay high for longer, who benefits, who loses?
Interest rates.
Interest rates.
So, well, the loser is the
American people.
right.
Someone early who's buying their first house. and
No,
locking in.
Joshua.
The interest on our debt as a
Right.
country is.
Have you looked at your credit card
No,
statement?
dude, they're gonna make that just go
Dude,
away.
have you looked at your credit card statement lately? Yeah, I think you've got 36 trillion on your credit card. So the
I
question
thought you were gonna cover all that.
no, that's what I had children for. So no, the question is, what is the interest on our national debt? And so it is the American consumer if interest rates stay high. But hey, guess who loses if they go low? Potentially. The American consumer.
It's a lose-lose.
It is. It seems to be a lose-lose because if interest rates go lower and the economy heats up, inflation goes up and the consumer could lose. Now, you might make a case, well, wait a minute, if interest rates go down, I can buy a house that I've wanted to buy. I can get out of my house because I've got a 3% mortgage and buy a different house and have a mortgage that's not,
Yeah.
6.5%.
If there's a winner, a bond holder in that scenario, it might feel like you're winning because you're able to lock in a 5% rate or whatever for a longer period of time.
And you'll see your bond go up in value.
If and when rates ever do
they
come
come
down.
down, right.
So, yeah, that's bleak. All right, here we
That
go.
was depressing.
Yeah, sorry. I've got a list here, and I just want you to know I chose that one. That one. Here we go. Fourth segment, land and plane. Have you done a Roth conversion this year? And if you haven't, have you considered it? And if you haven't considered it, when are the times that you should consider it? That's what we're helping with right now. This is the Wise Money Show with Cohorn Financial Group. Thanks for being here. My name's Mike Bernard. With me in the KFG studios, Kevin Cohorn and Josh Gregory. Every episode of the Wise Money Show is on the Wise Money YouTube channel. Go check it out. Go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, subscribe to it there. Turn on notifications so you're aware every time we drop new content. And speaking of, there's just tons of content there, not just this talk show, but all throughout the work week, we've got Next Wise Step videos. And by the way, during the breaks of the radio show, we've got bonus content here on the talk show. So make sure you go to YouTube, search the Wise Money Show, check it out. All right, we're talking about the 5 times that you need to consider a Roth conversion. If it's a potent strategy to help you shift dollars from growing taxable to growing tax-free, you've got to consider it when and how do you do that? The fourth one was early in retirement before RMD starts. Let me tell you a story before we get to the fifth one. And I think of all of them, I think the fifth one is the no-brainer of no-brainers. Could be wrong. We'll see what Kevin and Josh think. I'll tell you a story. Recently I was meeting with some folks who retired early. They're 61, I think. And we did that calculation, Josh, that you were just sharing in the last segment. We looked out at the long-term projection of their finances, and we looked at what their taxes would grow to. Now, that long-term projection showed a confidence rate a year ago that it was around 86, 87% confident that they were on track for retirement. That's a high confidence rate. That's good. When you're doing the 5-factor retirement plan, you don't want 100% confidence. That's you're over-sacrificing. These are probabilities. So it was good. The market has done extraordinarily well over the past year. So keeping all variables the same, instead of high 80s, they're now high 90s of confidence rate. And because of that extra investment growth, we looked out, and as soon as they started their required minimum distributions, they were going to be paying IRMA forever. And at 61, we looked, because your IRMA, the income-related monthly adjustment amount, what you pay for your Medicare, is based on the prior year. We had 2 years to do Roth conversions before their income started influencing their Medicare. and we ran the numbers at filling up the 12% tax bracket, filling up the 22% tax bracket, and then filling up the 24% tax bracket. We converted $275,000.
Wow. And did that eliminate the IRMA issue for them out in the future?
If we do it for 2 years, it will. And so now, along with that discussion was, they're retired. So the paying the tax is going to be about $50,000. And so we needed to tell them and prepare them for, listen, you've seen your portfolio grow and that feels great. Know that there's going to be a large chunk that we just send to Uncle Sam right now. So your portfolio value is going to go down. Are you guys on board with it? Like, we talked through all sides of that decision, and made sense financially, and they were on board. So
that's a great move.
Yep. So that's that proactive multi-year projection sort of planning that you need, and that's number 4. All right.
And you know what? If you were just working with, I'm not throwing stones at a CPA or anything, but if you were running a tax projection with a CPA, they might not have IRMA on their radar, or may not give full emphasis to the fact that when you have to start paying more in Part B premiums for your Medicare coverage and everything, that is like a tax, right? And it might not show up in some of their projections, but you guys were doing the math and saying, we're going to be paying all these extra premiums. That's like paying tax. It gives you more room to be able to do a Roth conversion and still be money ahead is the idea. But you're only going to find that stuff when you're doing comprehensive financial planning.
Yep. Proactively. All right. The fifth time is unique to right now. Fifth time to consider doing a Roth conversion is if you are currently eligible for the new senior deduction. And this one feels like a no-brainer. So let's explain what this is. In the new tax laws, the OBBBA that they're trying to rename, and I've shared with you guys before, I can't stand any of the names. So even if they do rename it, I'm going to really have disdain for that one as well. They tried to do no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. They weren't able to accomplish any of those. The only one I was really, really, really cheering for was no tax on Social Security because it just feels punitive. Instead, what they were able to pass for the Social Security piece is a senior deduction, and this is if you're age 65 or older and your adjusted gross income, married, filing jointly, is below $150,000 or $75,000 for all other filers. It's almost like you can't understand it, but that's that's it. And if so, you don't even need to be on Social Security. That is 65 and your adjusted gross income below those levels. Then you get a $6,000 deduction. And if you're
per spouse.
Per person. So
and we would rather have a credit,
right?
But it's a deduction, but we'll take it.
We'll take it. And then the other sort of rapid fire here. Well, what if you get a standard deduction? Do you get this as well? Yeah. If you get a standard deduction, you're 65 or older, you also get a special deduction on top of that standard deduction. Do you get both? You get that as well? Yeah, you get that. Well, what if I itemize my taxes? Yeah, you still get this $6,000. Here's the catch. It's only here. This new tax law, this part of the new tax law is available for 2025, 2026, 2027, and 2028. Will they extend it? It was hard enough to pass this thing. Yeah. I don't have a lot of hope that they're going to be able to extend it. So to me, if you are eligible for this thing, it means you're likely in the 12% tax bracket. Mm-hmm. And if you're in the 12% tax bracket and this deduction exists where now you've got a little bit more room in the 12% tax bracket, it's like, tell me this isn't a no-brainer.
I mean, it's essentially the government created one of those tax valleys that we were talking about at the beginning of the show.
That's right? Exactly right.
It's a temporary dip in your taxable income.
Tax pothole. That's not a tax valley, right? It's a
$12,000 a year.
It's a tax
coming
dimple.
Off someone's taxable income.
I know, but think about this. Think about this. So I am on the lower end income wise. So I'm like, okay, cool. I pulled $12,000 out of my IRA to do that. What did I just do to myself? I just added almost $10,000 of Social Security that's taxable.
Could be.
By pulling that out.
Yep.
So because you think, well, wait a minute, it's simple. It's like, no, this is the knife drawer. Don't play with it. Because that's the risk, right? Like, I want it to be simple. I actually have emotionally decided to not understand this one, and I think it's 4 years, dude. 4 years. So I'm like, I'm not going there. Like, at 57, I have so little computing power left in my brain, I can't understand this stuff. I don't want to.
They have really created a monster here with these tax laws.
But this means.
But you are pointing out a time when it isn't a no-brainer, and that is when you're on the low end of that curve where you might not pay any tax at all. And if that's the case, then I would consider for a married couple converting $6,000.
But the point is, you run a tax projection with it and without it, and
what I have to
you
have.
calculate what was the tax created by doing this move. And whatever that tax is, divide it by the amount that you converted, and now you have an actual percentage of effective tax.
And no longer can you say, I just have someone who prepares my taxes.
Yeah,
You have to have so if you're 65 or you know someone who is, don't walk to your CFP and say, hey, will you help me figure this out? Because it sounds like I might need to move some of my IRA to the Roth IRA, but I know this is like an Indiana Jones movie, and there's booby traps all over.
Mm-hmm. But if you're age 65, just know that you're now getting an additional deduction. You get to ignore a major chunk of your income, which means you could replace that income proactively by doing this IRA to Roth IRA move, the Roth conversion. You have to at least consider it. And there's another potential cause that could create the exact same situation. If you are someone who uses qualified charitable distributions to fund your tithes and your offerings, your charitable giving each year right out of your IRA, that used to be counted on your tax return as income coming out, and then you would make your deduction. Now you can ignore it, which means, again, your income is lower maybe than it would have been in the past, and you have room to do these Roth conversions.
I see what you did there, Josh. You're trying to sneak in a
number six.
sixth time to do a Roth conversion. The point, guys, is do planning proactively with your certified financial planner. These were 5 plus 1 creative ideas, times when you should consider a Roth conversion. There's more than that. But then even this consideration, this answer, if it's yes, there's follow-up questions. How much? How do you withhold the taxes? Where should that come from? How do you invest? Work with your CFP on that. That's all the time we have for today. On behalf of Josh Gregory, Kevin Korhorn, all of us at KFG, have a great weekend. We'll see you next Saturday for the Wise Money Show with Korhorn Financial Group.
Securities offered through Silver Oak Securities, member FINRA/SIPC. Advisory services offered through KFG Wealth Management, LLC. Doing business as Korhorn Financial Group. KFG Wealth Management, LLC and Silver Oak Securities Incorporated companies are unaffiliated.